Today we are going to have a short look at configuring a tagged port between a Cisco and a Brocade switch. The both vendors do have a very similar syntax for the configuration, but when configuring VLANs there's exactly a difference in the logic of configuring it. On a Cisco switch you are going to add a VLAN to a physical port, and on a Brocade switch you are going to create a VLAN and then add a physical port to the VLAN. So it's exactly the opposite direction. The setup currently looks like this. We have a Brocade ICX 6450 and a Cisco 3560 switch. The only difference from the picture is that the port 3 or 23 is currently not connected and the serial cable is connected to the Cisco switch. So we're going to open the connection. As mentioned before, on a Cisco switch you're going to add the VLAN to the physical port. So this would be done switch port mode access. We're saying that the switch should be an untagged access port and it should be assigned to VLAN 101. The VLAN doesn't exist, so the switch is going to create it. That's for an untagged access port. If you're going to create the tagged port, we are configuring it as first defining the encapsulation, and we're going to say that it's a trunk port, no negotiation. What goes down and up. And by default every VLAN on the switch is allowed on a tagged port, so there's no selection or anything. Every tagged port is every VLAN is allowed on a tagged port. If we have a look at the port itself, we see that on gigabit 0/4 all VLANs are allowed. If you don't want this to be, then you have to select which VLANs are allowed or which are not allowed on the tagged port itself. But by default everything is allowed. So that's the configuration for the Cisco side. We are not doing anything else. We just want to have a look at the difference in the syntax for the VLAN configuration for an untagged and a tagged port. And we just saw the configuration on the Cisco switch, which is this and this. And now we are going to move the console connection from the Cisco to the Brocade switch. And as mentioned before, here it's exactly the opposite. So we're first going to create the VLAN. We're going to create VLAN 101, and then we say which port is untagged and which is tagged. So we say, or we want port 1 on the Brocade switch to be untagged as an access port. Untagged Ethernet 111, which makes this port as an untagged access port, and we want VLAN 101 tagged on port 1/1/24. So the connection to the Cisco device. Done. And now we have a one port, namely 1/1/1, as an access port in VLAN 101, and we have VLAN 101 tagged on port 24. And here we see currently only port 1 is untagged in this VLAN, and this VLAN is tagged on port 24. Well, that's already the end of the story. So we have seen the difference between the configuration on a Cisco switch and on a Brocade switch. As we saw on the other commands, the syntax is very similar, but on the regarding the VLAN configuration, you have to think exactly the opposite way, but shouldn't be a problem, and see you next time.